and welcome back to my channel. I am the Spell Singer and this is my ongoing review of the Fighting Fantasy Gamebook series. And this review is going to give you a quick look at this particular book, title and number. I will read the blurb very briefly. We'll look at the plot and the locations for this book, talk a bit about the game mechanics, look at that adventure sheet, and I'll run the artwork through this video and have a chat about that. And then some of my own likes and dislikes, any fun facts, any errors, and finish with a summary and a score out of 10 for book 35. So this is Daggers of Darkness by Luke Sharp. Good old Luke Sharp. This is book 3 for him, so he did 4 in total, and this is his 3rd attempt. Back in 1988, this was published, and this front cover here is by Les Edwards. So good old Les is back with a really stunning front cover. I'm not sure what I think about that cod piece though. But the internal artwork is by Martin McKenna, and I always thought Martin McKenna, I always assumed that he'd been in this from the start, but this is the first book that he illustrated. So when I think of Martin McKenna, he's like synonymous, isn't he, with fighting fantasy. This is the first book that he did, and of course he would go on to do a lot more, all the way up to the end of this series, this Puffin series of books. So yeah, Martin McKenna doing the internal illustrations. So, let me read the blurb to you. Okay. Dark forces are massing in the wild and ancient land of Kazan. Unless you reach the great throne in time, the murderous vizier, Chingiz, will take power. Who knows what evil will flow from Kazan if this vile scheme succeeds? But time is running out. You must face Chingiz before it's too late. The destiny of Kazan is in your hands. So, that was the blurb. So the plot and the locations for Daggers of Darkness. The adventure begins with you being attacked by this assassin. You get scratched by this dagger. It's a death spell dagger. And the idea is that you've got to travel to the great throne to defeat this evil Chingiz, who's mentioned in that blurb. And you've got to hand back the dagger to him in order to defeat the magic, this poison that's in your veins from this death spell dagger. So the only way you can do it is you've got to hand it back to the person that gave you the curse in the first place. So that's quite neat. And this book features the second appearance of the wizard Astragol, who shows up in a few of Luke Sharp's books. He's like Nicodemus and Yazdromo when you think of old Ian Livingstone. So yeah, he's a recurring character in Luke Sharp's books. You need to collect medallions in this one. And these medallions, you can find them throughout the adventure. You go through all these trials to obtain them. And like many of Luke Sharp's books, there's a large emphasis on sort of random dice rolling, which I'm not a big fan of, but I'll get into that later. Obtaining one of the medallions even involves a kind of board game, which I'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, Daggers has some real depth of backstory, and it's a good explanation, even involves a kind of socio-political kind of structure to Kazan, where this one is based. So there's a lot of detail here. Kazan is made up of these 6 different locations, or key areas, and each run by tribes, these varying tribes, and they're all clients to the king, who seats in the capital of City Sharabas. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. Sharabas, I don't know. And then there's no real system as such to succession through lineage as you would usually have when you need a new king or queen. So rather, people can put their kids, their children, forward to become the select. And they're then groomed to eventually compete for the crown. So that's how it works in Kazan. Which is where you come in, because of course you are one of those competitors. You are one of the select. And now the adventure involves trekking across Kazan's wide variety of terrain, undertaking trials in all these different mazes that each of the 6 locations uses as a kind of test for the select. And the aim is to collect each of these 6 medallions. They're rewards, essentially, for success, to get through these mazes. And these medallions, they help you to complete the final trial as well in this fortress in Sharabas. They are, however, there's this kind of added complication in that the current king, this sort of despotic dictator type, he's out to stop this select. He doesn't want to give up his throne. Can't say I blame him. So yeah, he's out to stop you at all costs, essentially, because he's got these assassins and all these necromancers, and they're all out to get you. So also the assassin who attacked you right at the start with that poison dagger, it's a poisonous blade. So of course you've got this, this dagger of darkness is what they call it, and it's got this toxin that's going through your veins, and of course you gotta get back to the king. You gotta hand it over to him in order to sort of stop this curse, this poison in your veins. And the only way you can do it is to hand it back over to good old king, who sent the assassin to you in the first place. So yeah, the bearer is the one that's causing all these issues. So there's a lot going on in Daggers of Darkness. Rarely do you get this much, or this level of depth or plot. And it really does make this book exceptional. In terms of location, however, as you can see from the map here, we're back in Titan as always. If we zoom in on the continent of Khul, so this is where we find the region of Kazan in the southwest of Khul, being the area directly to the west of Gorak. And if we go in even further here, you can see in this nice colour map by Leo Hartus, you can see a depiction of the actual area of Kazan. So yeah, that's where we are today. Right, let's chat about the game mechanics and the adventure sheet. So Daggers of Darkness features this all new cool mechanic, the attribute of poison. So from that dagger that you got stabbed with earlier, you got these this toxin which is spreading through your body. And on the character sheet, which we'll have a look at in a moment, it's represented by this human figure which is broken up into about 24 units, which you tick off basically as you progress through the adventure. And then throughout the game, you're instructed to mark off, like I say, all these units that record the spread of this toxin. And once all 24 are shaded in, it's curtains, and it obviously represents death at the hand of this poison. In effect, it's a simple way of sort of measuring time. So it's just a time mechanic, but it's a little bit better and a little bit more personal because, of course, it's affecting you rather than anyone else. The game also features several medallions, like I said, that can be collected. And if you possess one, it allows you to sort of walk away from a total of 3 combats. So if you think, that's really good, you could fail 3 combats and you can use this medallion to kind of resurrect yourself. But it's not that great because there's a penalty you got to pay, which kind of, for me, killed the whole thing for the medallion and being able to sort of resurrect yourself in the first place. So if you choose to do this, so instead of dying and restarting the adventure, from the beginning like you usually would, you can restore, so you'd be at 0 stamina, you can restore your stamina back up to 4, that's good, but you also lose a skill point, a fortune, a luck point, and you get to tick off 3 more units of poison. So I don't really see where the advantage is, because of course the game is then going to be that much harder to complete. And of course you can do this 3 times, so you're going to be completely poisoned and down on skill and luck by the time you reach the end. So I never used this. I mean, you don't have to do this, you can just accept defeat and start again, like we always did. But yeah, I thought it was a bit of an odd mechanic, that one, and I never really used it because I thought the punishment was too high. Yeah, so you also get a choice of those classic 3 potions that you've got in the old Fighting Fancy game books, the potion of strength, the potion of skill, and the potion of fortune, so you get to choose one of those as well. And as well as that, you get some fun puzzles in this adventure game book. The first one I'll read to you actually is the chamber puzzle on reference 77. So there's all these cool little graphics. I'll put one up here. You can see the graphic there of the chamber puzzle. So it says here, you're placed in a chamber, the floor of which consists of 49 separate raised blocks. You must get from point A to B using the one throw of the die. You may throw the die as many times as it takes. Several blocks are marked with an S, have vicious snakes resting on them, which will bite you if you land on their block. Deduct 3 points from your stamina if that occurs. 3 bites and you're dead. So there's that one, so that's quite a cool one. But you've also got this maze puzzle on 160. You are escorted to the next chamber. The maze has 24 chambers, you are told. You move around it by throwing the magic die and moving the number, moving the number of squares indicated by the throw. Mark your position on the chart below. There are many dangers and you will probably experience them again and again. So that's quite a good one. You make a note of the number of this paragraph, then you start, you throw the die, you move in the direction indicated by the arrows. So for example, if you throw a 4, you count 4 squares, you move to 73. And then you basically turn to that paragraph and it goes on like that. So yeah, I quite like that. There's lots of these in there. I'll do one more. So the other one is the Gronicus puzzle on 266. So that's this image here. The old man does not seem to touch the branches of the bushes. They merely part as he passes. You, however, have to fight your way through, and suddenly he stops and turns. He has remembered something. Chingiz has summoned the demonic necromancers. Beware of them. Gronicus. That's me, will help you attain a level of fighting ability against them. And if you can achieve level 6, 7 or 8, you will fight them in the flesh. Gronicus proceeds to summon up a magical pattern. So that's when you get this little image, and you can stand at A, you throw the die as many times as it takes to reach a number that denotes sort of different skill levels. On a throw of 5 to 6, you move up 1 block. On a throw of 2 to 4, you move 1 block to the right. And a throw of 1, you've got to deduct 1 point from your stamina, and you don't move. So it's pretty tough, but it's quite nice to have all these cool little games within the game book. I quite like that. Yeah, so there's all that going on. But there is, later in this chamber of ancient magical spells, you have to mix these ingredients as well. So that crops up right at the end. You go to this chamber, and if you don't have the right number of medallions, you can mix all these sort of ingredients together to make a spell to kind of compensate, and that's on page 45, reference 45. So that's these here. So it says here, the voice echoes in your mind. You are in the chamber of ancient magical spells. Here is where the power of the kings and queens of Kazan is determined. You see a table with a row of 3 bottles and another row of 3 jars. The ghostly voice speaks again. True monarchs of Kazan are able to face the dangers of gnosis. You must now choose the contents of 1 bottle and 1 jar, mix the materials from the 2 and drink the resultant brew. Beware. For 3 of the mixtures are deadly, and you must perform this feat twice. So of course you choose, like volcano dust and viper's tongue. You go to reference 166 and see what happens. And it's a 50-50. It's either instant death or it gives you like an ability, to, like I say, compensate for not having enough medallions. The adventure sheet is right here. So we've got your skill, stamina and luck, somewhere for your gold, and then you can see the poison unit. So there's this fella depicted, cut up into 24 segments, and you just tick off each one as you're told to do so. Sometimes you tick off 1, sometimes 2, depending on how much you're sort of using your stamina and how physical you're being. So if you're getting into loads of fights, poison's going to act quicker. And then you've got your list of medallions there. As you tick them off, you've got your provisions as well, any abilities you might pick up along the way, and any clues, spells, objects found, and notes. There's not loads of objects to pick up in this one, which is a refreshing change, but as an adventure sheet, it's perfectly good. Let's talk about the artwork for Daggers of Darkness. So the colour map, this colour map here, you guessed it, is Leo Hartus depicting Kazan, like I briefly showed a bit earlier. So that's really nice to have at the front of your book. Nice colour map by Leo. And Martin McKenna, like we touched on. So yeah, he did the illustrations for this book. It feels like real fantasy art. There's a fantastical look to his towns and his cities in particular. These illustrations add even more to what is already quite an atmospheric book. Martin McKenna was an artist and illustrator based in the UK, whose work has appeared in a number of publications, including Fighting Fantasy, obviously Gamebooks, this series. McKenna illustrated books for international publishers, including Scholastic, Penguin Books, Oxford University Press, HarperCollins, Time Warner, and Hodder and Stoughton. So quite a good list of references there. So he's really been busy. He got involved in a lot of stuff. He's also has a long association with the games industry, sort of working with Games Workshop, Hasbro, Parker Brothers, and I think he worked as a concept artist as well on computer games for Eidos Interactive. He did some for film, television productions, and he was also the author on several books about sort of digital art. Was the editor of the Fantasy Art Now, the very best in contemporary fantasy art and illustrations book. So yeah, very busy. That was published by Collins. So yeah, he's really heavily involved, and Fighting Fantasy was just a drop in the ocean, really. The cover art is particularly eye-catching. So yeah, key moment in the book as well. So quite early on in the book, this incident happens. So it's quite nice because sometimes these books they don't often depict sort of relevant moments in the story. Sometimes they can be quite random, but this one's quite a good interpretation of a key event. Sort of towards the start of this book. Yeah, I mean, the more you look at it, the more weird it is. You've got a guy here surfing on tigers with a big bird and a codpiece. Yeah, so that's Mr. McKenna, and as always, I've got my favourite pick, which is this one here. This is the Mamluk Assassin. This freaked me out as a kid, actually. This is the reference that goes with it. You walk northwards, suspicious of the woman. She is surrounded by a pile of rubbish on the ground, as if she has fallen from the roof. And suddenly she stirs. You get nearer, and she begs you to help. And then you notice that half her face is peeled off. To reveal the demonic visage of the Mamluk assassin. The assassin realises that his disguise, has been torn away and leaps to the attack. I thought it was a woman. Right. So, my own likes and dislikes for Daggers. I like how this adventure sort of features a unique, if slightly odd story, with their sort of potential anti-colonialist sort of theme going on throughout it. It includes sort of interesting concepts as well, like alchemy or these different poisons. It adds to that kind of strategic depth. The magic sword that can insta-kill an opponent is a great way to help sort of those low-skill characters. So if you roll bad, it's not all over. And the enemies and creatures, they're sort of really unique, very well illustrated to sort of help you, the reader, visualise what on earth is going on. Not so keen on the writing at times, which is often a bit flat, I found that with a lot of Luke Sharp's books, a bit lacking in detail at times, and they kind of fail you to sort of bring you into this life, fail to immerse you ever so slightly. But luckily we got Mr. McKenna to sort of bring it back. Many of the items and abilities sound more useful than they actually turn out to be as well. The plot has this kind of significant twist. It's difficult to notice, and the medallion collection, like I mentioned earlier, kind of feels a little bit pointless because you can get to the end and you don't really need them. They help, but you don't really need them. So that's a bit weird. But all in all, it's a solid book, and it's a lot better than his last two attempts. Some fun facts. In an interview with Martin McKenna, he states, "My first regular paid illustration work was with Games Workshop, and my main contact there at the time was John Blanche. He recommended I send some samples to the editor at Puffin in the hope of getting a spot of work. Not long after that, I was given Daggers of Darkness to illustrate. Being pretty much a novice at the time, 16 years old, I was a bit daunted by the task, and that the end result shows my lack of confidence and experience. But I think he's doing too hard on himself. I like the artwork. It does get better throughout the books, and I think by book 40, I think he illustrated that one. That is prime McKenna. It's really good, but there's nothing wrong with the artwork in this book. It's perfectly fine. Also, Astragal from Chasms of Malice, he returns. In the region, obviously, of Kazan in Kur, being the area directly to the west of Gorak, which is where Chasms of Malice was set. So you've got these little hark back to the previous Luke Sharp books. He does like to do that, and it's quite nice for continuity. So this is a great game book. It's the last game book till Deathmore to offer you those 3 generic potions at the start as well. So you won't be seeing those 3 skill, strength and fortune potions until Deathmore, and after that you'll never see them again. Actually, I haven't said that. They might show up in Scholastic, I can't remember. Anyway, a couple of errors I thought I'd mention. The Grip Falcon on reference 94 is previously described as a Grip Vulture at reference 187 and 134. So a little continuity error there, but nothing to get in a twist about. Reference 179 should say to deduct 3 stamina points for using the Sprig Trifili, which is this item that sort of just grows around the place and you can get. So it says to reduce it by 3 instead of 1. So slight mistake there. And you can't know how to use this Trifili sprig, this little item, plant, in reference 243. So turning to reference 10 to turn invisible is impossible. So those of you that read that will probably remember that. So yeah, it's a little bit confusing. And finally, it is impossible to reach reference 378 without the Segrek horn. So the book shouldn't really ask you if you have it either. But yeah, these are all very minor continuity errors, which don't really hold up the book at all. It's perfectly fine. It's just little things that once you notice and spot, you can just quickly work out for yourself the correct way to go. Right, let's do a summary and score for Daggers of Darkness. So this adventure has loads of variety. Kazan has an interesting range of creatures living within it. The birdmen, the mamliks, the cometads, and the fang tigers. So Martin McKenna helps you visualize all these really cool creatures. And they all get like an illustration, at least one illustration each one. So that's really helpful. And these books often try to kind of contextualize new encounters, but not here. At least the art makes it pretty clear what you're up against, thanks to Martin McKenna. And to balance things out, a regular fighting fantasy encounter, such as like your orcs, your dwarves, your goblins, they make an appearance as well. So it gives that kind of familiar feel to Titan as a whole. The Grip Hawk is here. Again, it's similar to Chasms of Malice, and references are made to Tancred, the Magnificent, who was also a main character in that earlier book as well. So again, a few more nods to his previous book. And there are some interesting elements as well to the structure of this adventure. The progress of the poison through your body is tracked by all those poison units on that adventure sheet that we looked at. And every time you overexert yourself, so if you get into a big fisticuffs or a battle or some kind of, strenuous situation where you have to run or perform some kind of physical feat, you're instructed to mark off those poison units. So that's a really nice mechanic, and it does sort of keep you on your toes. So of course, if you reach those 24 poison units, and it's spread throughout your body, and it's game over. And this helps the plot thread as well. It kind of helps it flow logically throughout the adventure and adds another element of urgency and suspense. It also makes you wary of combat. So of course in the old books we always throw ourselves in, wouldn't we, and have a good old punch up. But in this one you're trying to avoid it as much as you can, because of course your health is at risk here. You're also told at the beginning that you need to find as many of these 6 medallions, all 6 of them if you can. They're listed on this adventure sheet, and you have to mark them off as you find them. But in an interesting twist, you can only really get 2 of them, maybe 3, but you're most likely just to get 1. They're really well hidden, and the linearity of this, I say linearity, the book starts off quite open, but as you progress, it does become more linear, and because of that, you can't really backtrack and get the ones you missed. So once you've sort of made your decision on what path you're going to take, there's not really any going back. And also, when you reach the final trial, if you have no medallions, you may think it's game over, but of course, like I mentioned, you can use those abilities and do that little potion puzzle to sort of compensate for it. So that's a good thing, and he's obviously thought about how he's going to work this game book and not leave you right all the way towards the end and have nowhere to go. So that's a smart thing. This is quite a refreshing change, like I say, to the usual sort of essential shopping list approach of the earlier fighting fantasy adventures. And there's a second twist as well, where it turns out that it's not the king that's your nemesis, but his daughter. So once you've returned the dagger to the king, and that poison is lifted from you, and the toxic curse is lifted, the daughter kills the king and leaves you to think about how to sort of finish her off. And again, the honourable act wins out, as always, which means that the themes of this book and the technique to sort of beat it remains consistent from right from the beginning all the way to the end. So yeah, a nice little double twist there, where it's not the king, it's his daughter you want to worry about. Bloody women. Right, so the usual Luke Sharp mechanics are found in this book, also including random dice rolls that kind of determine that success or failure. And you'll remember from my previous reviews of Luke Sharp, I'm not a big fan of these. There are several occasions where you are asked to throw dice and sort of compare those numbers of your dice. So to give you an example, I'll read you a couple of references here. So we got 1, 2, 3, just to give you an idea of how tedious this can get. The Bogomils ride hard and fast. Eventually you reach a settlement of stone buildings in the shape of a rough circle. Horns are sounded and many other riders appear. You are told to dismount and are made to stand in a clearing in the middle. And then the crowd parts to let in a large white stallion, which has obviously not been tamed. It bucks, kicks, jumps and twists. One of the riders announces, "You must ride this creature for as long as you can." 2 horsemen lean down and catch you by the upper arms. They lift you up between them and drop you on the horse's saddle. Throw 1 die. If you throw 1 or 2, you are unseated and crash to the ground. Deduct 2 points from your stamina. You are then remounted in the same way. Repeat this procedure 4 more times. If you are unseated a total of 3 times, the 3rd time you are winded by the fall and cannot move, the horse kills you with a blow from its hoof. Your quest is over. There you go. Reference 1, 2, 4. Classic Luke Sharp. And I'll do one more. 1, 4, 1. The book's littered with these. You crawl along the narrow tunnel. It's old and parts of it are collapsing. Something scuffles along the ground and bites you. Deduct 1 point from your stamina. The tunnel roof begins to shake and it collapses on top of you. You are covered in dirt and rubble. Holding your breath, you try to dig your way out. Throw 2 dice for the amount of air in your lungs. Then throw 2 dice for the amount of air you will need to escape from the cave-in. If the air in your lungs is equal to or greater than the air needed, then you have made it to another tunnel. Otherwise, you suffocate. Your quest is over. There are also luck tests where failure will kill you straight out. So there's those as well. There's all these routes that kind of loop you around in circles. And it's very hard to map this book. So if you are one for mapping, Luke Sharp's books are very tough to map to make any kind of sense. So yeah, that's a tough one. And also, there's loads of points where you can get knocked unconscious as a way of sending you to a kind of choke point later on in the book. So if you're off on one direction, and you can get railroaded back another way by getting knocked out, and then you just wake up at a choke point, which is, again, that's a sort of a typical Luke Sharp trait. But yeah, there's lots of tough encounters, but the low stats is a bit of a red herring, as you need to sort of avoid a lot of this combat, like I say, because of the poison, as much as possible. Otherwise, you're going to die from all these toxins. But overall, the book is a better entry for Luke Sharp. It's a big improvement over Kazan's, which was dreadful. And as for Starstrider, well, less said about the better. But it also came at a time when fighting fantasy was becoming quite unimaginative and a bit unfair. This is well designed in terms of the concept, and it keeps you interested all the way through. So it has a good lastability. it's not too easy, but you could do it on your first go with a little bit of luck. So yeah, that's quite nice. Rarely has that kind of inherent nature of your character played such a major role in the book. There's lots of thought gone into this, lots of background, lots of good concept. There's lots of really cool NPCs as well. They all come into play in this one, tag along for a while. And with this book, Luke Sharp redeemed himself a little and showed that he's actually quite capable of designing a good game book. He just needs to work on those game mechanics a little more. Yeah, don't stop that from stopping you buying it, because it's a good book. If you've read it before, you'll know what I'm on about. It's definitely an improvement. So I think all in all, I'd probably give this one a 7 out of 10 for Daggers of Darkness. Yeah, so that's my review. This one was sort of an improvement, let's say, but he did one more, and in my opinion, that final book was the one where he fully redeemed himself. We'll get to that one soon. But anyway, yeah, if you like that, maybe give it a thumbs up. If you like that review, maybe give me some comments. What were your thoughts on this one? Did you like it or not? How did you find all those game mechanics, or is it just me that doesn't really get on with them? Maybe share the site. And the next book we're going to review will be book 36, which is Armies of Death by good old Ian Livingstone. So I'll catch you in that review.